Science Foundation, where National Science Foundation is very focused on the America Seed Fund component. And while we are certainly invested in that as well, investing in small businesses to develop technologies, we are looking with the end in mind, which is why such a big piece here focuses on transition. And again, transition being, we are investing in areas where we believe we know there are Army needs. There's a specific Army system, and we're trying to invest in new technologies to improve the capabilities of that system. So for you, as a small business rep, I think that should be exciting, right? Because what does that mean? Of course, in the auspices or under the auspices of the SBIR or STTR program, the R&D investments are relatively small in the grand scheme of things, right? So with the phase 1 award of $250K, a phase 2 award of maybe $1.75 million, that still is only $2 million, which, in the grand scheme of things, particularly compared to most even angel investments or typical, Series A, B, C round investments, it's nothing. It's very, very small. But, being that we're focusing on transition, that means that there's a customer waiting for the technology. And so we are really posturing you as a small business to know who your customer is. You're developing, a technology or a capability that our customer needs. And one of the things that's very unique to the SBIR and STTR programs, which I don't recall if this was actually said, but once you are selected for an award under the SBIR or STTR programs, that process of competition basically satisfies any future competition requirements. So what does that mean, in government speak? That essentially means that you have a sole source justification for a follow-on either R&D or procurement or production contract for a technology that relates to whatever technology you developed through your SBIR or STTR contract. So that's really what we're posturing you for, right? So we're investing in relatively small amounts into developing technologies with the hope that then you would get to a quote unquote phase 3, which is really where the higher contract amounts can be realized. And I've already sort of spoken to this again, the flexible and responsive approach. And again, this is very different from even what we saw with NASA, with EPA, and even some of the larger agencies, right, where we are, actively releasing topics all the time. Recognizing, again, like I said earlier, that makes it more challenging from your perspective. Obviously you have lots of different things going on, and staying abreast of these different technologies or these different opportunities might be more challenging. But again, this is done deliberately and intentionally from our perspective, so that we make sure, I'll give an anecdotal example. So we've, the Army historically followed the traditional DoD solicitation cycles, which is 3 times a year. But we would oftentimes, have a project that ended, but there wasn't a customer waiting for it, and the technology just sat on the shelf, or the proverbial shelf, didn't have a transition pathway in mind. And even though it was a great technology, we were not able to actually transition it to the customer. So really starting with the end in mind is a goal for the Army. Again, and this is all about driving towards developing and delivering, technology solutions to support the Army. So the way that we do this, at least internally to the Army, and again, I think that this demonstrates how deliberate we are in terms of focusing on transition. So we've actually established these cross-functional teams within the Army that consists of a portfolio manager that sits, within my office in headquarters department of the Army. And each of these portfolios is focused on a specific technology domain, and they have stakeholders from across the Army laboratories, from across the Army program executive offices and program managers. So really our customers from across, even into the Army Materiel Command, all of our sustainment, mission, et cetera, et cetera. And essentially what these teams do, these transition broker teams do, is they identify what their needs are. We identify, what the cross section is between Army stakeholder needs and the private sector, and we use that to identify really the sweet spot for where the Army should invest our SBIR dollars. And one of the things that I'll say, that the Army has pivoted to, in the last couple of years, is a recognition that SBIR program is an opportunity for us to take a risk. There are many places, where the Army cannot take risk. We're very risk averse, and there's obviously some very important reasons for that. But in terms of technology development and technology investments, the Army is leveraging the SBIR and STTR programs to really lean forward, invest in things that are going to have a foundational and fundamental impact on the technologies that we deploy to our soldiers. And I think that should be really, exciting to you as a technology developer, in that, we are really trying to, broaden the aperture, invest in new things. We aren't just investing in things that, will give us an incremental or evolutionary change, right? We're really trying to lean forward and invest in, groundbreaking technologies. I already spoke to this, a few moments ago. We're focusing about 80% of the portfolio on these 5 technology areas. There is quite a bit of overlap, and these are pretty broad, and across the biotechnology sector, I think there are quite a few different applications here. And essentially, when a topic area or a project area is released, it will say what technology area it's aligned with. There will be some specificities regarding the specific technology and the transition opportunity. We've also done a few open topics. So the PM from AFWorks talked about how the Air Force has done open topics, and we recently just closed one within the climate and clean tech arena. And I believe there's one upcoming within the immersive and wearables technology area. So, this is really based on the fundamental, fact that, we don't know what we don't know. The Army can't possibly know all the technologies and the capabilities that exist out there and are applicable to our diverse and quite, to be honest, quite vast technology challenges that we face. So an open topic allows us to really understand the breadth of technology capabilities that are out there. And then we rely on our transition broker team construct to connect the technology developers, i.e. you, to our technology consumers, i.e. all of the program executive offices, program managers, et cetera, across the Army. So again, we've been exploring with that sort of different modalities of types of topic solicitations, and I believe you'll see more of those come out, in the coming months. In terms of the road to contract, and I spoke to this earlier. This provides a little bit more granularity, but I think that again, another thing that makes us different in the Army is that we're really focusing on the end in mind. So this green dot over here, which is essentially our follow-on phase 3 contract. Starting with that end in mind and working our way backwards to say, what makes sense? What's the right acquisition pathway to get there? And again, this gives us a tremendous amount of flexibility in the program to say, should it start with a proof of concept demonstration through a phase 1 award? Should we go straight to a phase 2 award? Should there be multiple phase 2 awards? There's a lot of flexibility in the program that historically the Army has not leveraged. Some of the other services have, but again, we are really trying to drive flexibility and agility into the program, recognizing that having access to capital is very important to you as a small business. And certainly we want to make sure that not only are we catering to the needs of our customers across the Army, but we also do that in light of the realities of being a small business owner, and recognizing that the government isn't always the fastest partner in terms of executing awards. And so we've been, again, really trying to sharpen the pencil in terms of being more agile and responsive to your needs as well. So, with that in mind, Air Force talked about how they established a contracting center of excellence in 2019. So we just this year were able to centralize all of the contracting actions within the transition focused portfolio. And this is very exciting. This is certainly an entity that if you apply to the Army and you're selected for an award, you will have a lot of engagement with obviously our contracting officers. And so through this centralized and streamlined organization, we've actually seen a tremendous decrease in the amount of time that it takes to get to an award from historically, which was honestly 9 to 12 months, which is pretty crazy, to less than 30 days for a phase 1 contract and less than 45 days for a phase 2 contract. So and we really see this as a game changer, right, for both the Army and our small business partners. How we can get you executing R&D to support Army needs as quickly as possible, rather than being languished in long contract negotiations, which are certainly important. We recognize the importance of them, but again, this is really all about being as agile and responsive to Army needs as we possibly can. So again, I'm going to stop there. Again, I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any. I don't know if there's a way to raise your hand, or you can just come off mute. Or you can put something in the text box, or sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say there's already one in the chat.
Controlled environment agriculture. Can you provide a little bit more context on that, Marcia?
I think that's the bulk chat from when everybody was together.
Oh,
I don't think
okay.
that was. I don't think that was an Army specific question.
Yeah, I mean that seems a little outside of the realm of the Army, but I think.
But I do have a question, actually.
Sure.
Which is there an efficient way to find, not necessarily directly related to SBIR specifically, but is there an efficient way to find points of contact in the Army in specific interest areas? And I can be less vague if necessary.
Are you saying like per specific technology demands?
Yeah. In other words, we're doing some things on quantum computing, and it would be interesting. And we have like an existing ongoing relationship with Air Force, But it would be interesting to find out sort of where the Army's interests lie in that arena.
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I would say that, one of the challenges is, I speak to the vast spectrum of technologies that the Army invests in. And, that's both a blessing and a curse, right? Because that also means the Army is quite broad in terms of our technology capabilities, both across the Army labs and also across our program executive offices, our PMs, so the more acquisition side of the house, and even to, the sustainment arm. Obviously, quantum related technologies is still somewhat nascent, although there are some specific applications that I believe we're definitely pursuing within like the Army Research Laboratory and also the C5ISR Center, which is one of our engineering centers in the Army Futures Command. And so, and we recognize that a lot of this information is obfuscated. And I'll tell you, and this isn't an answer for now, but one of the initiatives that we are working in the coming year is to set up basically almost an R&D marketplace, where there is a central repository of small business technology capabilities and an opportunity to connect them in a very deliberate fashion with either funding opportunities through the SBIR or STTR program or other R&D funding opportunities, which there are a tremendous number through the Army. Also to our, technology, subject matter experts in our labs. So if you may or may not be familiar, but the Army has 11 different labs all across the country, 25,000 scientists and engineers that execute a big chunk of the Army science and technology research. So there is a vast amount of resources out there. The problem is that there isn't a very efficient or effective way of connecting you to them. And so we recognize this as an issue, and we are working to solve it. I know that's probably kind of a non-answer, but I mean, the quick answer would be, certainly our quantum subject matter experts are at Army Research Laboratory, and if you go to their website, which I think is arl.army.mil,
arl.org, arl.mil, yeah.
There's a way to reach out through their mailbox, and they can probably get you connected to the right people.
Okay.
But again,
I will take that route.
Writ large.
Sorry, all right, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments?
Yes, I have a question. Question being, so normally to go to phase 2, you have to complete a phase 1 application. Is that correct?
That is not correct. So it depends on the project. So certainly the quote unquote traditional pathway would be we released a topic for solicitation. It's typically open just to phase 1 applications. And then the phase 1 project, which lasts 4 to 6 months, serves as your proof of principle or proof of concept to then be able to apply for a phase 2 award. That being said, within the Army's portfolio, if we identify a technology capability that we believe is already rooted in places that where we believe companies can come to the table already with that proof of principle, then the firms can jump straight to a phase 2. And so that's called a direct to phase 2 award. It's usually identified in the topic solicitation that it's a direct to phase 2. And for those, essentially, we jumped straight to a phase 2 award of typically up to $1.75 million in 12 to 18 months.
Okay, because then my follow-up question to that would be, so our company is, we applied for to submit for an RFA for a diagnostic device to detect 2 diseases. And what I was thinking then is after and that grant is for $250,000 to develop an initial prototype and do an initial clinical test. So then my question, or what I was thinking then, is if after that is complete and we're able to demonstrate that we can create a portable device that can be used in the field and can scale with different diseases, can we then use that as the basis to now try phase 2? Because all we did was that work was all just completing the initial device, then use that to grow the device, take it through the commercialization phase, and make sure that it's ready to be released to the market and be scaled up. Is that do you think that is viable, or that strategy is optimal?
So I would say it depends. What you described absolutely would be enough to justify that proof of principle, that proof of commercialization, potential that's required, or that typically comes out of the phase 1. The challenge, though, is, with typically, and again, this is typically, with a given solicitation, it's either a phase 1 or a directive phase 2. So certainly if it was a directive phase 2 solicitation, then you'd be able to use what you just described, for that proof of principle piece. If it is just a phase 1, then you would still have to go through the traditional pathway. But I will say that there have been some agencies who have released topics where it could be either or both. We have done some recent solicitations where, depending on the maturity of the proposal, we awarded a combination of phase 1s and direct to phase 2s. So really anything's a possibility, but again, I would make sure, I'd recommend that you look at, the specificities of the specific solicitation and what they are looking for.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Anybody else?
Matt, I on behalf of everybody, we appreciate your time this afternoon. Thank you for obviously the talk to everyone and this breakout session.
No, absolutely. No, I mean, it's these virtual sessions, they can be sometimes hard to read the room, literally. But again, I'm happy to, I will say, that within the Army, we're making a lot of changes, and we have been making a lot of changes within the last, 18 months. Again, and this is a recognition that, as I mentioned earlier, the SBIR and the STTR programs are an opportunity for us to take a risk, both from a technology investment standpoint and also from a contracting standpoint. And so we've been really trying to be deliberate about making some changes in the program, which I think really have been mostly about how we can cater better to our customers across the Army, but also to the small businesses that really make the program work, right? And so, again, happy to, I'm not certain if any of you have worked with the Army historically, or if you're thinking about it. Again, happy to answer any questions or take any feedback, good, positive, or indifferent. I'm here all afternoon, so over.
Thank you very much, Matt. It seems you have a lot of time, so I'm going to take some of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Is it
Well, I
better
wouldn't say for
to
a whole lot of time, but sorry, I wasn't trying to.
yeah, is it better to directly talk to a program manager like you who is running the SBIR, or just go ahead and find a specific program manager who is working on a specific topic and then propose your idea to that person and then read out the entire thing back to you?
So that's a good question. So certainly, the underpinning of our program is that we are investing in technologies and capabilities that support Army programs or Army S&T, science and technology investments, Army modernization investments. And so, I think the easiest way, certainly, obviously, the easiest way to get involved is just to track our website and see topics as they are released, and of course, propose to them if there is one that's applicable to you. I understand that's a bit passive. Certainly, there's an opportunity also within the website to suggest topics, or if you already have an Army customer that's interested in your technologies, then they can reach out to our office so we can identify if there's overlap or opportunity within our overarching investment scheme. I'd say one of the challenges, though, and I'll be honest, is that there are lots of PMs, program managers, that are managing specific different technology elements across the Army. I don't, of course, know all of them. I probably know a very few of them. And so much less, we wouldn't necessarily expect you as a small business owner to navigate that complex ecosystem. So one of the benefits of the construct that we've set up, where I guess maybe I didn't provide context in this. So I personally work in Headquarters Department of the Army in the office of the ASALT, which is a terrible government acronym, but it's essentially the Assistant Secretary of the Army for Acquisition, Logistics, and Technology. So what does that mean? Our office provides oversight for all of the Army's research, development, testing, and evaluation, the whole acquisition enterprise, and we liaise with the Army Materiel Command, which does deployment of technologies. So what does that mean for you? I mean, as a small business, what that means is that we have the ability within our office to reach into all of these different Army elements and Army commands that are executing, anywhere from basic research, like we have going on at Army Research Laboratory, all the way up through applied research at our other engineering centers, and also into the acquisition elements. So other program managers or product managers or product engineers across all of the different program executive offices and PMs. So that all of the PEOs report to my boss, which is Honorable Doug Bush, the Army Acquisition Executive. So I would encourage you, again, if you have, a technology area or, a technology that doesn't seem to align with topics that are being released or with the transition broker team areas that I showed earlier. So artificial intelligence, machine learning, autonomy, sensors, climate and clean tech, or wearables. Just reach out via the website to our mailbox, and we can certainly set up a time to chat, or we can try to get you connected to the right office. Well, that was a very long answer to a short question, but
yeah, thank you so much. That was great. Yes, very good answer. Yeah, you already answered my second part of my question, which was if the topic doesn't fit to what you have posted. And honestly, I think I have a technology that could be a disruptive technology for Army, especially for distributed manufacturing, where you cannot take resources with you. Let's say, for example, right now in Ukraine, there are lots of scrape tanks and artillery sitting there, or can you use that on site and then do additive manufacturing with that? So I tried to find a related topic, but I couldn't. So I think the best way would be just to contact you or your office, and then set an appointment with someone who could be interested.
Yeah, the other thing I would offer, I said it earlier that we're exploring more open topics. I would also say where there's fewer bounds in terms of the technology focus area. So the other hat that I wear is I manage the Army's prize competition program, which is really intended on the principles that you just described of, the Army doesn't know what we don't know. There's a lot of technology that's happening, technology advancements that are happening that we don't have the organic expertise or capability or capacity to know everything, right? So so we run several annual prize competitions really aimed at demystifying technology advancements that are happening across the private sector. And so we actually have an upcoming competition that will be opening soon, and it's completely open. It's called the X-Tech Search, and this will be the 7th iteration of the competition. So certainly that's an opportunity, and actually the winners of the X-Tech competition get an SBIR award at the end. So it's really an amalgamation of prize competition, easy point of entry on the front end, with an SBIR award on the back end. And Tara just put the link to the X-Tech Search website in the chat. So if you go there and track that, again, it'll show you how you can engage with that program as well. So that's certainly a way to get ideas in front of Army subject matter experts, where there are literally no bounds in terms of the types of technologies that we'll look at.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Yes, absolutely.